the same ironing, the same clothing, the same neatness of the shirt or whatever, but it will expend a lot less energy in doing the same work.
Exactly. So that first of all will depend on the product.
Exactly.
You know, and then also your behavior. So we are looking at energy efficiency and energy conservation. So whereas you would spend some time ironing your dress and watching your favorite program, in the case of the women, watching Kumkum Bajia or watching the Euros in the case of the guys. Once you are multitasking, you realize that you end up spending so much time ironing, when ideally you should have been using just a few seconds to iron your handkerchief. You are ironing and watching television, you know. So then duration comes in. So it is the consumption. So
it's not only the product,
not just the product,
but our behavior as well.
Our behavior. So you look at the conservation aspect as well, you know.
Okay, so let's talk about the product. What were the products then? I thought there was a time when something happened with the refrigerators. People were supposed to bring them. What was it then, and then why was there a need for something else?
Exactly. So to give your cherished, you know, audience that background, the Energy Commission, as part of what's the crisis that we faced way back in the early 2000s, came up with what we call standards and labeling for air conditioners, and this was passed in 2005. We also came up with standards and labeling for CFLs. You know, I hope you remember the incandescent bulbs. You know,
exactly.
These bulbs, as a result of technology, were fading out. So we had to come up with some standards to be able to do that. We also banned the importation of used obsolete refrigerators and air conditioners. You know, and we would look at all of that. What happened over the years? And then we came up with standards and labeling for refrigerators. So these were the three appliances we started with.
Air conditioners,
refrigerators, and lighting devices.
Okay,
so at that time, we looked at CFL because that was the new kid on the block. You know, so these are things that we came to look at. Now, when it comes to standards, it is very difficult because we are having very, you know, interesting ways of doing measurement. So when you go to the market, for example, and you want to buy a bowl of gari or rice, they tell you that this is Olonka, yet we have Olonka Spentex, Olonka Dimija, Olonka Malamata. So you are asking yourself, which of the Olonka are you using to measure the rice? So standards have become international means of measurement.
Okay.
You know, so these protocols are in place. So in our case, we have the Ghana Standards Authority who adapt international standards.
Okay.
Which is the IEC or ISO standards. And then the Energy Commission picks up on these standards to develop regulations. The regulations will further enforce the standards, give directions to the users, importers, the mandates, and of course the penalties. So these are the things that we put in place. Now somebody will say, what is Ghana standard? What is European standard? Interestingly, the Chinese are the same people who manufacture for the European market.
Okay.
The only difference is that when the European businessman goes to China, he goes with the standard and said, this is what my country wants. And so that is the tangent that we have taken, you know, coming up with these standards and labeling. And I'm sure when we look at the graph, you know, on second hand, eventually you see what that means for the Ghanaian public. And it's important for us to share that. From 2005, predominantly Ghana was importing used appliances. So when you look at the trend, you realize that a lot of the items coming in were obsolete and also high consuming. Now, there are three major things that we need to look at. These cooling devices contained what we call CFCs, which is the chlorofluorocarbons.
Okay.
In technical parlance, we call them R12. These were the gases that were in the refrigerators when they were manufactured. Eventually, scientists realized that these gases were depleting the ozone layer and also having some global warming potentials. So they came up with other refrigerants, you know, such as the HFCs and HCFCs.
Okay, so we'll go into the graph. If you're watching,
if we have the graph,
please, if you're streaming with us, please go on your Facebook right now. You would see the graph is coming up. There is a graph there that we want you to look at so that we speak to that graph. I want Mr. Zan to speak to the graph right away so that we understand. So, yeah, you were saying something that since 2005.
Yeah, so since 2005, once these refrigerants had to change, it meant that the Montreal Protocol had to come in. And
Okay.
of course, once they come in, these refrigerants had to be phased out.
Okay.
So fast forward in 2016, the Kigali Amendment also came in to phase down and phase out HCFCs.
Wait, there was a Kigali amendment.
Exactly. To the Montreal Protocol. So the Montreal Protocol was phasing out CFCs.
Okay.
Which we all know
Exactly.
went obsolete.
Yes.
And then the new refrigerants that came in were the HFCs.
But is this the graph?
Exactly. This is the graph.
Fantastic.
So and you know, it's important to share with your listeners. When you look at the trend, predominantly Ghana was importing second-hand, appliances. And it's very clear from here. But the law was passed in 2008. And what we try to do, and in acting as good faith,
Okay.
the Energy Commission has been very consistent with the business community. Now, when you look at the trend, in 2008, it was an election year. So,
Okay.
of course, not just election, we also looked at the business environment
Exactly.
and said, let's give these importers the leeway to be able to run up their business. And that ran up into 2010. 2010, there was a change of government. Appeals were made. We looked at it and said, okay, let's give them another extension up to 2012. And they kept on persisting. 2012, another election year. Exactly. So eventually we realized that because of our international commitment, we could not continue doing this, extending at the expense of the state. So when you look at the graph, there was a sudden dip from 2013 when eventually we had to start the enforcement. So a law that was passed in 2008 only started full enforcement in 2013.
After 5 years.
After 5 years, even more, because you are looking at 2013.
Very magnanimous on the part of the Energy Commission.
So the Energy Commission does not just, say that because we have the mandate, we are just biting. We had to give these importers, some time. Now, look at the potential savings. If we hadn't intervened with this, a whooping 563,000 units would have been coming in as of 2018.
Okay.
And look at the potential savings. 3,624 gigawatts was saved.
So if you are not coming in 2013, what you're saying is that this 3,624 gigawatts would have been energy wasted because of poor equipment or
so
appliances.
energy wasted because of also the high consumption.
Exactly.
And again, I like to use my analysis, the water hose analysis. Assuming I was watering my flowers in the garden and I connect my water hose, you realize that the pressure is very high.
Okay.
But once somebody starts to punch holes in the water hose, then the pressure reduces.
Exactly.
It's the same way we have with the grid. The electricity grid goes through, power lines. Now, when you start to use obsolete high-consuming appliances in your home, then this becomes the holes you are punching in the grid, which is the water hose. So you end up getting brownouts, which is the kind of current that would have gotten to the other user, the other Ghanaian, starts coming in very low.
Because you are using a wrong or some old school.
Very high, consuming appliances. And the argument has always been, but I'm paying my bills. What is your problem? The problem is that you are wasting what ideally is supposed to be access to every meaningful Ghanaian's home. So these are the things that we are talking about, and saying that every appliance has a lifespan. The more you use these appliances, then they start to deteriorate. Now, these appliances are usually meant for recycling in the European regions because they are phasing out these appliances. But when our Kingsmen travel, they see this as business opportunity. So they go to pick them and then they are bringing them in.
Zan, don't go too far. So a businessman goes to any of these foreign countries, sees a heap of toasters and irons and stuff that, plenty. Don't I see them at La Paz?
Exactly.
But I'm still seeing them.
Exactly. And that is why the graph is here to, show you. Now, because these things have been banned, what it means is that importers do not declare these items. Because once you declare, the system will pick it up. But the Energy Commission's data, and as you can see, the blue lines, shows the seizures that we have been able to make. So if you actually go into the ICOMS, that is the Integrated Custom Management System, to request for data on importation of used, refrigerators or air conditioners, you virtually have no data.
But the things are at La Paz.
But they are coming in. And this is our data to show you that we are very much aware that because people are not declaring it, they are finding ways of smuggling them. And you can see the picture. If you share the picture on us insisting that importers should do genuine trade, you would realize that a lot is happening in this country.
I mean, yes, there's a picture there as well.
Yeah, importers showing genuine trade.
Importers showing genuine trade. I think it's a picture with
a container,
Yes.
And so
I've
what is happening is that once they go to pick these items, they do not declare them because they know.
Okay, is this it?
Exactly. This is the picture we are
Oh, there's
about.
a car in the container.
And Jerry, we are going, it is so disturbing. Now, the Energy Commission, tries to regulate the space, but these importers are finding smart ways of beating the system. And sometimes we get goosebumps when we encounter things like this.
In this other container, what am I seeing there? I see some black. Is it CPUs of the computers or what?
Great. So this is a container that was described as personal effect. Now you realize that the custom law allows people who have studied abroad, stayed abroad and coming home to come with their personal belonging. So people are taking advantage of this description to indicate that they are coming with personal belongings. So you see this container with boxes, people's names written on it, yet they wrap the refrigerators with black polythene. Load them at the back of the container. In some cases, they put them under the container and heap these boxes on them.
Interesting.
Okay? So when you do that, then what it means is that you do not declare the items, you do not pay duty. Now, this is a container that was described as British High Commission, and this is a very famous issue at the port. This container was stopped at Golden Jubilee Terminal, because we share intelligence, and we realized that there were some fridges in the container. The importer moved up and down and said there was nothing like that. We had to go to customs to divan the container. Now, per the protocols, customs cannot divan a British High Commission or a diplomatic container because of the protocol.
Exactly.
So they said, what are you doing? You are breaching protocols. But we were very certain because the tip of that had come in, indicated that there were some things in the container. Now, the sector commander then decided to invite the agent. And because he knew things were going, strange, he said, okay, let me go and get the importer up and down, up and down. Eventually, we decided to open the container. And my brother, you can see what is in there. Instead of fridges that we were looking for, we ended up going into the container and we realized that there was a Volvo in there.
Yeah, I'm seeing a Volvo.
Which means that these people were actually engaged in smuggling of vehicles as well. So not just the used fridges that we were looking for, but they were actually even going into smuggling of vehicles.
You open a Pandora's box.
Now, interestingly, this was a container labeled as a diplomatic container, which was not the case. So this is actually things that people are doing, and sometimes
still bringing the substandard.
And that is why I'm saying that we are very much aware, and Ghanaians have to understand that these things you are seeing out there are not genuine trade, because these things are banned. How then do you describe it and then come in?
Why don't you go to La Paz and arrest all of them?
Exactly. And that is the main reason why we had to go back to Parliament. Because, when you do things like this, you need the mandates.
Exactly.
So the Energy Commission showing all this evidence, all the, in terms of the potential savings that we could have made, enforcing the regulations, got market surveillance in addition.
Okay.
Now, what we do is that we don't go violently to say we have the mandate and so we are seizing. Mm-hmm. The law was passed, enforcement started in 2013. If you are still selling these items, like we approached the sellers in La Paz and Kaneshi, they told us that these are old stock.
Okay.
And so you are imagining, in 2024, you are selling products from 2012. So we have decided, if you say they are old stock, that is fine. Uh-huh. We are going to take inventory.
Okay.
And then have some timelines. And be sure that these things are not coming in because you have a time period to sell them.
Exactly.
And that is the way we'll be going about it. So when you do that, they need to produce the evidence of the new stock or old stock or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. And I think when we do this, we'll be very, candid to ourselves. Because number one, you are not paying duty because you do not declare them. Now, when they get out, the HS code does not know used or new products.
Okay.
It's the same duty you pay. The only difference is your invoice in terms of the cost you bought them. Now, how come these products are sold at very cheap prices? It's because they don't pay the duty, so they can afford to reduce it. Now, when the Ghanaian goes and sees these items, he's looking at just one thing, which is the initial cost.
Exactly.
They are not paying attention to the operational cost, the running cost, and even the disposal.
Okay.
So that fridge or AC, which was ending its life in Europe, which finds itself in Africa or in Ghana, you go to buy it. The next thing, you cannot close the door because the gasket is weak. The next thing,
Extra
the compressor has a problem. You take it to the repairer, they do what they have to do with it, and then they even add a fan, to try to cool this, this compressor. That is extra. So you look at all of this.
What you're telling our listeners is that if you went to the roadside to buy any of these secondhand appliances or electronic products, don't think you're getting it for cheap, because in the long run it's going to cost you more.
Exactly. Because
So
you are
go for
just
the
paying
new one.
attention to just
Initial cost.
the initial cost, forgetting about the running cost, operational cost, and disposal. And that is what we are talking about, the total cost of owning this appliance. You need to look at that.
Total
Now,
cost.
apart from just the used appliances, the Energy Commission is not being biased to say that we are banning just used appliances. The new regulations that we have passed is looking at minimum energy performance standards.
For all appliances.
All appliances, which includes the new ones, because you can also have new, inefficient, or substandard products.
It's true.
And that is why you have that balance saying that, oh, these are Chinese goods labeled as, inferior goods. But the Chinese are the same people who manufacture for the European market. And as I mentioned, the importers go there with the standards and regulation to say, this is what we need to enter the European market. And that is what the Energy Commission is calling for. That for all importers who are dealing in electrical appliances covered under the regulation, we insist that these products must meet the minimum energy performance standards before they are allowed into the market. Regardless of second-hand or brand new, you need to meet the minimum energy performance standards.
What are these appliances?
Yes, so...
How many are they in the first place?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, we started with 3 appliances. And also because of technology, we had to revise these appliances. So we have revised the refrigerator and air conditioning regulations, and we have added onto it. So there's a picture on that. So once we have added the washing machine, microwave ovens, televisions, comfort fans, and the comfort fans includes the standing fans, the wall fans, and then the ceiling fans. We also have the industrial fans and then ventilating fans. We have also added computers. So very soon you start seeing the yellow label that you saw on fridges, also on computers and these appliances I've mentioned. We have also added renewable energy products or equipment. Like the solar panels, the solar inverters, and the renewable energy battery. Because people are having bad experience with the type of equipment that are coming in for installation. So it's quite a list of appliances. We have also looked at the industry and realized that electric motors are also consuming very high. So we have come up with standards and labeling for electric motors as well as distribution transformers. So these are...
How do you enforce all this tall list? How are you going to make sure the fan, the electric heater, all of them?
Exactly. So it's a daunting task, but the strategy that the Energy Commission uses is to engage its consumers. Now you realize that I'm here today as a personnel from Energy Commission. But when you and I walk out of here and go to the shop, we become consumers. So every Ghanaian actually is a consumer. And the consumer is the most powerful person. So once Ghanaians who are discerning enough are educated in this space, then they decide what they are looking for. They decide what they want. So what we have started doing is that as part of the regulations, the Energy Commission plays a role as a referee between importers and manufacturers. The importer has his money. He wants to bring in products. In most cases, these importers are cheated. The manufacturer just gives them anything and it goes. Now, importers are supposed to come to the Energy Commission, show their intent. I intend to import refrigerators, air conditioners. What do I do? The Energy Commission will request for the technical documentation and advise that importer that these products will meet the minimum performance standards.
Okay.
And then we give you the label design. So you see these yellow labels on fridges, which has a star rating.
Exactly.
You know, 1 star to as much as 7 stars with the new regulation now. It works like the hotel system. When you go to a 7-star hotel and then I go to a guest house or a 1-star, I don't think we'll pay the same bills.
Not at all.
You know, but when I wake up in the morning, I'll be giving 1 Lipton and 1 boiled egg as breakfast.
Yes, I've seen some.
Whilst you enjoy your buffet.
Thank you very much.
Some English breakfast. So these are the things that we talk about, you know. So once you want that English breakfast, you have to go for the high efficient appliance, which is a higher star rating. And that means that your bills or your consumption will be lower. So we try to use just, you know, some, you know, things to be able to encourage the Ghanaian to make this informed decision.
Zan, look at it this way. What you're saying is that the average Ghanaian who cannot afford the new appliance, in quotes, so would go to the roadside, La Paz, Kanishi, go buy. Because his appliance is of an inferior quality and it is using more energy, he's having to pay more for energy than the rich guy who could actually have afforded to pay for more. He is using less and paying less.
Exactly. So when you turn it around,
so the rich are becoming richer.
When you turn it around, you don't necessarily have to become rich, because eventually that operational cost, maintenance cost that you were paying, you could have added that to afford that
the
new
fresh
product.
one, which is more energy efficient.
Exactly. So it doesn't have to be that you are rich before you can buy this. Number 2, as I said, we are not paying attention to this operational cost, the maintenance cost. So just looking at just
the initial cost.
Initial. So we are coming up with some incentives to be able to support that. And, you know, just before I get into the incentives, looking at collaboration. Collaboration is what we also intend to use to, you know, enforce these regulations. Working with consumer groups, because they are also very key stakeholders.
Exactly.
We work with customs, who are in charge of enforcement at the ports. We also work with the media, like I'm here, because you create the awareness to send the message out to importers and then the consuming public. And that is very critical. Now, once you have done all of this, what is the situation in Europe or any other place that we all desire? When the latest iPhone comes out or any gadget, you have the option to turn it in, get a discount, and get a new one.
Exactly.
And these are the discussions we should keep on having. What are we doing as a country, Ghana, to support the citizen who is complaining that I do not have the initial cash to buy these appliances? It is nothing strange. In Europe, they are not working magic. They are just putting in place systems, incentives to support these consumers. And we think that is what we should be talking about as a country. We have all admitted that the initial cost is a problem.
Exactly.
How do we support that Ghanaian to be able to purchase that? So in 2012, for example, we came up with a rebate. We partnered with some consumers, some vendors, to say that if you are importing refrigerators and you intend to replace these refrigerators, what it means is that you go for these appliances by turning in your old appliances, you get a discount to be able to purchase a new one.
Okay, I remember. I think I heard something like that.
Unfortunately, Ghanaians said that this is not going to work. You know, this is just theory. But we're able to turn in as much as 10,000 units of refrigerators. So these are things that work. And today, Ghanaians are calling for that program to come back so that we can support them to buy this. We also have the eco fridges that we are talking about, where we are partnering with, you know, partner banks. And these banks are supposed to liaise with vendors.
Okay.
High efficient appliances, 3-star air conditioners, and then 5-star refrigerators. Once you do this, the price that you see at the showroom is what you actually pay for over 12 months at 0% interest.
Wow. 2 quick questions before we run out of here. What about the La Paz guy who is saying that you're about to spoil his business? What would he do if you stop him from bringing second-hand toasters and those things? I've seen some very interesting ones.
Yeah.
What job is he supposed to go and do?
Right. So, and that is why we gave the background that we didn't just start today. This law started in 2008.
Okay.
And in good faith, you can see how long we have given Ghanaians to run up their businesses. From 2008, we are in 2024. You know, so you keep on asking, what is it that we are actually doing to ourselves? Now, number 2, The Ghanaian who claims that, or businessman who claims, I do not have the capital, is able to go and bring 10 containers of second-hand or used obsolete appliances. Why don't you use that same capital to at least invest in bringing 1 or 2 containers
of new and more efficient
ones? Why do you want to do 10 containers of obsolete appliances? You disguise them, you don't pay duty in some cases because they are banned items. And then you say you are a genuine business person. So what we are talking about is that capital that you would have used to go to the UK to go and pick these appliances, pay the shipping line, load these containers and come into the country. You can use that same capital and become a retailer
of new
products. Why are we not looking at that? You are using that same capital to go to the UK to go and pick second-hand products, which are probably banned. You are finding ways of, disguising them in a container. You pay the shipping line, which is the same cost you would have paid if you were bringing new products. Yes. Why don't you use that same capital and become a retailer? And I'm happy. If you go to La Paz, a lot of these business people have started considering that.
Okay.
So you would see that they are gradually transitioning, moving away because it's a burden on them. Most of these things that come in, they come in as untested. They work on them, they realize that it's not functioning. And then they have to start to dump them somewhere.
So literally he went and brought garbage.
And that is what it is. Because there is just one component that you are looking out from the product. Look at this CRT televisions, what we call the Etikopo TV. You are bringing it into the country because you just need one component from it. You take out that component, what happens to the debris?
You have to throw it away.
You have to throw it away.
It goes to Agbogbloshi.
Exactly. So where do we throw these things? So they find themselves at Agbogbloshi, and these are becoming burden on us because we don't have that kind of system between us and the Europeans who has the facility to recycle. Yet we go to pick the products, bring them here and say we are recycling or we just want some component from it. So let's look at the bigger picture as Ghanaians and say that it is not the intent of the Energy Commission to spoil anybody's business. We are trying to streamline the market. And if you're a business person, we expect that what you sell to the consuming public should be something that the consumer can get value for money.
Mr. Hubert Insozan is the Assistant Manager, Energy Efficiency Regulations at the Energy Commission. We've been talking about the new energy efficiency regulations and its impact on the average Ghanaian youth. So the lesson is very simple. Don't look at the initial cost and think you're saving money, because probably you are not. It's about to cost you more to operate that machinery. Zan, final words.
So my final words is that we are in this together. It's a shared responsibility. We are appealing to importers of these products to come to the Energy Commission, get the necessary documentation done, get the advice as business people to be able to bring these products. For the enforcement agency, customs, Ghana Standards Authority, the security agency, again, we are in it together. We are all consumers. And if we look at the bigger picture, we need to make sure that these laws work. And then for us, the media, we hope that such awareness will be created because the Ghanaian needs to understand this and get value for money, for the products. So I would advise consuming public to download our app. We have come up with an app that is supposed to help them make an informed decision. It's called the GH Certified Appliance App.
The GH Certified
Appliance App. And this is on Google Play Store and then iOS. You download it and you can use it to verify whether these labels have indeed been approved by the Commission. Wow. And once you do that, we tell the consumers that no label, no good. If you do not see labels on the appliances, and then it means you are buying at your own risk. And the most important thing is that once we do all of this, tomorrow we have the mandate today to do this. And I'm sure when our grandchildren come up, they will say, oh, we had Papa Zan, Grandpa Zan was handling energy efficiency regulations. What did he do for the country? And so posterity will be judging all of us. And so when you have the opportunity today, let's think about the bigger picture, which is our motherland, Ghana.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much for coming through. That is Mr. Hubert Insozan, the Assistant Manager, Energy Efficiency Regulations at the Energy Commission. You've heard him. posterity will come and judge us if we allow this country and this continent to deteriorate beyond repairs. This has been top story right here on Z in the morning. When we come back,